It's so good to be back with you for another program in the series Centrally Speaking. Hope that you've been learning about the work and function of Jamaica's central bank, Bank of Jamaica.
Welcome back, viewers. Centrally Speaking is a program that opens up the conversation around important matters of economics and finance, matters of national importance that have an impact on your life.
All right, so today we'll meet Ian Williams. Ian Williams is the financial controller and the division chief at Bank of Jamaica. He'll be sharing with us Jamaica's foreign exchange reserve management.
Anna, do you understand what the foreign exchange reserve management is about?
I'm sure Ian will
elaborate on that.
Will explain it for me.
Our special guest will speak to us about Jamaica's foreign exchange reserve management. But first, let's get to the streets.
Do you think the country should have savings in foreign currency? And if you do, why?
The country should have savings in foreign currency because on a whole, the country trade with other international trading partners, and these international trading partners trade basically in their currency. So in order to alleviate any problem that will arise when there's a demand for these currency, it is necessary for the country to have a quote-unquote a stock of these currency, whether or not it's the euro, the US currency, or the English pound, or the Canadian dollar, that whenever there's a demand, they will be able to satisfy this demand as quick as it arises.
Them should save some. So that's when they're buying overseas for the country, you know the money can match up, and we don't have to lose anything.
Yeah, it's a good idea because we need the money to build roads and improve the country.
It is better because the currency keeps going up.
I think the government should save in foreign currency because it saves us from inflation, builds foreign currency, and allows us to save more money.
No, I don't, because we are Jamaican, so why not save in Jamaican currency?
No, I don't think so. Because Jamaica, them supposed to save everything in their own country. Why you want to switch category in another man's country?
Ah boy, hey, you know, so my friend up on the streets, them not easy, you know. There's some very interesting thoughts and opinions. But before we join our special guest, let's get a good word in from the Bank of Jamaica.
Welcome back to Centrally Speaking. Hi, I am Sheena.
And I'm Anna. Our guest for this episode is Ian Williams, Bank of Jamaica's financial controller. Ian, welcome to Centrally Speaking.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, ladies.
Yeah.
All right,
It's
so
good to have you.
it is good to have you, but it's the first time on our set. So you know, we have this question we always ask.
Okay.
The new people.
The new people. Which institution, which school did you go to, which high school, and which parish
you're repping?
are you repping?
Oh, okay. So those are two easy questions. One of the best schools in the corporate area, Meadowbrook High School.
You think you're going to say
Yeah.
then, you know.
I thought you were
In-
going to say
in
Glenmore,
fact-
even though they're not
In
in
fact,
the corporate area.
you both have the colors of Meadowbrook. Well, the green. Yeah.
You know, so we
That's one of our colors.
You
Yeah.
know, so we weren't because a money episode today.
Yeah, precisely. We were just thinking
Good,
finance,
good.
money.
Good coincidence.
And then the
And
parish.
I'm repping under the clock.
Really?
Yeah.
You're born in town, Mr. Williams.
We're finding more and more persons
But
born
I
in
think,
Kingston.
but I think in my second life, I'm
Yeah.
going to come back as someone from St. Anne.
Yeah.
Oh.
Love the beaches.
Okay, all right.
So Ian, what is foreign exchange reserve management and why is it important for Jamaica?
Okay, so let me start by saying the foreign exchange reserves represent the country's savings of foreign currency. Why is it important?
Yes.
Well, the reserves are there to meet a number of objectives. It provides confidence to the world at large that the country can meet its external obligations. That's one of the primary reasons for it. And there are a number of other objectives, such as being a buffer for times of crisis, like the pandemic we're going through now. You know, there are times also when we are challenged in maintaining the stability of our local dollar. The reserves allows us to intervene or provide some liquidity to the foreign exchange market. Yes. Economists will also tell you that the foreign exchange acts as backative, let me use a Jamaican term, for local currency.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. There's something you just said that I'd like to some clarity on, especially for our viewers. Just say for our viewers, how do we save the foreign currency? Where do we get it from to save? Is it from the tourist industries? How do we get it from to save? And what kinds of foreign currency do we save in? The examples.
Okay, so there are many sources of funds or inflows into our collection or savings of foreign currency.
Right.
We have the remittance inflows.
Right.
We have export dollars.
Okay.
These all flow through the normal commercial banking sector.
Right.
We have also loans from multilateral institutions and grants.
Right.
Yeah, those are, in times of crisis, those can be very important.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are a number of ways that we get foreign exchange into the reserve.
All right, so you told us about the sources of foreign exchange in the country's coffers. What exactly is BOJ's role in managing this reserve?
What BOJ does is essentially act as the investment manager.
Right.
That means investing the funds in appropriate securities or instruments.
Right.
And by securities for our viewers?
Well, what we call investment grade instruments.
Right, and these are local?
Which are foreign currency bonds.
Right.
Time deposits.
Yes.
At international institutions.
Right.
And government treasuries, sovereign government treasuries, and these will be of first world countries.
Right.
The US, for example.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the money is invested in international securities. So that is the focus of the BOJ, investing the money so that it earns more and keeps its value.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, good.
So specifically, what is this pool of money used for?
All right, so it meets a number of needs.
Okay.
For example, the government of Jamaica will require foreign currency to settle its external debt obligations. That's one of the primary functions of the foreign reserves. It is also used to provide additional liquidity whenever foreign exchange is in short supply in our local financial institutions. The reserves are also critical in ensuring that Jamaica is positioned to meet all its external debt obligations. It provides confidence to the world at large that we are positioned to meet any external obligation that we might have.
So let's just understand it. So you said that so the money is used to settle government's debts. So in a railway, when we heard the Minister of Finance saying that we paid over $6 billion in debt, is it literally them going to them account at BOJ, so BOJ draw a check, and that is how it is paid for? That is literally the use?
Essentially, though, we maintain division. So the government of Jamaica would actually buy the foreign exchange
from BOJ,
from Bank of Jamaica to settle its external obligations.
Okay, great. Just to understand that. There's a term that we are familiar with, that is the net international reserves. Is it related to what we're talking about?
It is. So we have the gross financial reserves, or gross foreign reserves. The NIR, or net international reserves, is a subcomponent of that. And what is done by the economists is to subtract from the gross reserves a portion of our external obligations.
Debts.
To arrive at that net figure. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So if we have $4 million in gross, then we have $1 million in debt, our net international reserves is $3 million.
That's
basically
correct.
All right.
And that million that you subtract would be short-term, essentially, obligations.
All right. So Ian, what are some of the ways you strengthen the management of the reserves?
Well, we have a number of initiatives that we have employed over the years.
Right.
First is what we call capacity building.
Right.
And we have a partnership with the World Bank, which essentially provides training to our local investment team to make sure we're at the cutting edge and are employing advanced portfolio management strategies.
Okay.
Right. Then it is also important to have a good governance structure around the reserves management. And that starts from the board defining our investment policy and principles.
Right.
And that flows down into the management of the reserves. In addition to that, we have investment guidelines that are approved. And we also have a very strong risk management framework in place.
Yes.
And that involves having a separate risk management function that looks at what the actual investors are doing in terms of how they deploy the funds.
Okay.
I think those are the critical things that we have put in place to strengthen our management.
Okay, so can you share with us how much US dollar is in the reserve management?
Currently, we have approximately, for the gross reserves, 4.8 billion US dollars.
Okay.
In recent times, there have been suggestions from some quarters that the NIR, the reserve, should be used to fund the government's recovery from COVID-19. Is it something that the reserves can do? And if we do, how often do we use it?
Well, we have to think of the reserves as dealing with obligations that arise from external to the country.
Right.
Things that we have to settle in foreign currency. The whole business of how dynamic, how often we go into it, the reserves is separated into different tranches. We employ what we call a tranching methodology.
Right.
So one component is actually quite active. There are inflows and outflows on a daily basis. Well, during regular banking days, Mondays to Fridays. So while other tranches are for the medium term and long term, those are not very dynamic in terms of the inflows and outflows.
Medium
you
term,
invest
5 years, long term 10 years.
We work with 5 year, generally speaking, 5 year at the longer term.
Okay.
And then we have the shorter term. You have very liquid funds that activities on a daily basis. So those might be your regular bank accounts. US bank accounts, sterling bank accounts. Those are quite active. Then you will have what we call time deposits, or what you normally know as fixed deposit. You put some money on deposit for a 3-month period or a 6-month period. You don't break that period unless absolutely necessary.
Okay.
So we have the reserves divided into these tranches. Some are quite dynamic. Some there's hardly any movement.
Okay. All right. So with that said, can you highlight some of the successes of effectively managing the FX reserves and also some of the pitfalls if we aren't adhering to the requisite protocols?
I think some of the successes include the fact that the reserves are pretty stable in terms of investment, having no investment losses, so to speak. You will have, of course, the regular market valuations, but by and large, there is an acceptable level of stability for the reserves. Preservation of value is number one for us. We are also proud of the fact that despite interest rates going down, which have affected returns, we have been able to adequately position the portfolio against our benchmarks, what we compare to.
And by interest rates, it means those overseas?
Yes.
In the countries that you invest the reserves in?
Right. Yeah. We have adequately positioned the portfolio so that the returns are acceptable, considering the environment that we're in. In fact, there are some currencies that are experiencing negative interest rates. No, you know, we have stayed far from those.
Okay.
Yes. So I think effective management of the reserves has produced those successes for us.
And the pitfalls.
Well, the pitfalls are
the opposite.
Essentially, if you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing,
yes,
you are subject to significant losses
okay.
on your investment portfolio.
Right.
You know, which will lead, of course, to a reduction in your overall balance of reserves.
How would you classify our reserve position in totality? Is it healthy? Is it anemic? You just said that the total gross reserves are $4 billion US. Is that good?
4.8.
4.8.
All right.
Is that good?
Okay, is our reserves healthy? It certainly is.
Right.
In the past, there were times when the balance did fall below what we considered adequate, but we're certainly in a good position now. One of the measures, acceptable measures, is how many weeks of imports you can finance with your level of reserves. And I would say we are certainly comfortable in that regard.
So how many weeks is considered the acceptable measure?
Well, normally you wouldn't want to have less than 12 weeks worth of foreign reserves to treat with your import bill.
Right.
And we're comfortably above that.
You know, Ian, this is your first time here, but it was very good having you, very insightful.
And informative.
Very, very, very insightful.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right.
So there you have it, viewers. Ian Williams, Financial Controller and Division Chief at Bank of Jamaica, who shared with us about Jamaica's foreign exchange reserve management.
And as centrally speaking, you know, we do our best to educate you about financial matters. So you know what time it is? It's time for the fun facts.
So you've learned about how Jamaica's foreign exchange savings is managed. Now let's explore some interesting facts about the United States dollar. The U.S. Department of Treasury first issued U.S. paper currency in 1862 as a result of a shortage of coins and the need to finance the Civil War. While many Americans associate George Washington with the dollar bill, his was not actually the first face to appear on the banknote. That honor went to Salmon P. Chase. He was the 6th Chief Justice of the United States, and the bill which bore his portrait was issued in 1862 during the Civil War. Martha Washington is the only woman whose portrait has appeared on a U.S. currency note. It appeared on the face of the dollar silver certificate of 1886 and 1891 and the back of the dollar silver certificate of 1896. The $100 note has been the largest denomination of currency in circulation since 1969. All American banknotes are made from 75% cotton and 25% linen. $1 bills represent 45% of the entire currency in production. The Federal Reserve spends about 5.5 cents to produce every $1 bill. The largest denomination ever printed was a banknote, gold certificate to be accurate, of $100,000. It was intended for transactions between Federal Reserve banks, and it has never been in circulation.
Whether you're a small farmer, street vendor, big investor, every entrepreneur, you got to wise up about your money. You have to make sure say your money secure. When you need to grow, you have access to more.
Financial inclusion means that individuals and businesses have access to useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs.
Access to more money, more credit, whatever your business needs. When you work hard for your money must work for you.
On today's show, we discussed how foreign exchange is managed. Here are the points from the discussion. Let's get into the fast facts. Whew. Number 1. Managing the foreign exchange reserves include ensuring that the country has an adequate level of foreign exchange to meet its obligations. Number 2. BOJ is the custodian of the reserves. They are responsible for carrying out all duties associated with managing an investment pool, with the preservation of value being the utmost importance. Number 3. The foreign exchange reserves gives confidence that the country can meet its external obligations, assisting the government with currency needs and providing a buffer for periods of crisis. Number 4. Currently, Bank of Jamaica now has a healthy level of reserves. That's good news. One measure is the amount of weeks of imports that can be financed. And number 5, Bank of Jamaica wants the public to be assured that there is in place a sound governance structure to manage its foreign currency reserves. And that's it for today's Fast Facts. It was so good having your company for yet another week. Follow Bank of Jamaica on Twitter at Central Bank JA or on BOJ's Facebook page. You can also visit the YouTube channel and the website boj.org.jm.
We also invite you to send your questions on Twitter or Facebook.
And as we say goodbye, we greet the staff of Bank of Jamaica.
Hi, Bank of Jamaica.
Big up on yourself. And of course, we invite you to watch us again next week at the same time, right here on your station, when we'll have yet another special guest. I'm Anna.
And I'm Sheena. Thanks for watching. Centrally Speaking is a production of Bank of Jamaica.